It didn't just stop with Final Fantasy III, oh no. Assets were made, crystals were arranged, and there was still more money to be made with the concept of remade Final Fantasy in 3D on the DS. Here's the thing though. Whereas 3 had a completely generic cast of heroes, Final Fantasy IV actually had likable personages. That dude seeking redemption, the dude with the big pointy object, the adorable Muppets who cast magic all over the place, the old dude, Bear Hugger Mode Sid. These characters actually had important dialogue and emotionally charged scenes. This reinterpretation was able to grant those historic moments something which every Final Fantasy since 7 has had available, whether or not it was actually used. Cinematography.
Cecil? Won't you tell me what happened?
That's right, you can now consider shot construction, where once there was just a one-tile large dude talking to a one-tile large woman in a flat room. That's what your hard-earned DS dollars are getting you, pal. Interesting camera angles as a servant of a mad king loses it for a while, redeems himself, takes a bath, and goes from Dark Knight to Paladin because what ridiculous game would have a Dark Knight for a hero? Not this one, friend. But unlike Final Fantasy III, this game's been translated, ported, and remade all over town. So why bother with this two-screened monstrosity over the SNES or the PS1 or the PSP or the GBA versions? Well, in addition to the completely overhauled and 3D-ified graphics, there's a fairly decent vocal performance lurking here.
I owe His Majesty much, but not so much I'd soil the Dragoon's name in his.
Then you're with me.
The meat and potatoes of the gameplay haven't changed all that much, and yet there's a number of wrinkles in the JRPG stalwart you know and love. First, and possibly most convenient, you get to set a command for each character to use during auto battle. I'm going to repeat that. You get to set a command for each character to use during auto battle. It bears repeating because it's so ridiculously obvious a quality of life improvement that it's disgraceful that other games don't do it more often. Face it, anyone with two neurons to rub together is probably going to be walking through many of these fights anyway, so why not allow for the most efficient use of the I'm gonna press this and walk away button? Makes RPGs so much more convenient. And it serves to reaffirm the fact that I'm awesome. That's all I really want out of the game. You can further customize your party through the use of a new augment system which bestows abilities and passive traits at the cost of battle menu space. Some of these are only available if you spend augments on the, less fortunate members of your team, though. You've been warned. It's not tough to see why, after such pronounced rejuvenation like this, folks still clamor for a similar treatment of, say, Final Fantasy VII. This cutesy 3D might have made its predecessor look decent, but the mere improvement of the medium does a lot more work for 4. The soundtrack, though, didn't need much work. This was Uematsu's heyday after all, and it really shines given the more dramatic presentation. Sure, there are some strange, almost ridiculous additions that feel rather at odds with the original, like this hyper-customizable summon who's really just here to facilitate a series of touchscreen minigames. But cast those off to the side. It might not be your definitive version of Final Fantasy IV, especially if you're an RPG purist, and I bet you are. But I always felt that this was one of the drier, less complex titles in the series, and to me, a refreshed set of mechanics and a more cinematic vibe were just what the old dude finally remembered. Too bad they defaulted before they could get to a revamped Final Fantasy V. One might say, bravely.